There have been a surprising amount of villagers throughout the Animal Crossing series. At least, much more than I originally thought when I started playing, and probably more than the average player thinks there are. Go on, I'll give you a moment to guess. How many villagers have there been throughout the entire series? A. 100, B. 200, C. 300, or D. 472? That's right, it's B. 200. Just kidding, of course it's D. At least, that's true as of February 2020. And that's just villagers. That doesn't include special NPC characters like Isabelle and Tom Nook. That's nearly 4 generations worth of Pokemon. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe most Animal Crossing fans know exactly the extent of how many villagers there are. My first game in the series was New Leaf. I didn't think about it much when I started playing, but if someone had asked me, I'd probably guess there's about 100 to 200 villagers max. I think the reason for this is that the typical player doesn't really cycle through that many villagers when playing. It takes quite a bit of time for villagers to come and go, and most people try to keep ones they like. Therefore, the average amount of villagers you actually interact with in the game is quite low. However, if you have a more ambitious goal, such as collecting all the villager pictures, or you're a fan of Nookipedia lists, then you'll understand perfectly how many villagers there actually are. I'm Gianni of Club Knox, and this is my co-host, Gianni.
Hello!
Let's take a look at cut characters throughout Animal Crossing history and predict what that means for New Horizons. The first Animal Crossing game has a somewhat confusing timeline. Originally released as Animal Force in Japan late into the Nintendo 64's lifespan, it was ported over to the GameCube with features that had to be left out of the N64 version. It was then localized to Western audiences as Animal Crossing with some additional content. Nintendo of Japan was so impressed with the updates that they retranslated the game back into Japanese and enhanced it even further with additional content. This Japan-only enhanced re-release of Animal Crossing was called Animal Force E+. Whew.
For simplification, let's just refer to these 4 games as the first generation.
I give that a stamp of approval. The first generation of games introduced 320 unique villagers, many of which were only accessible through e-reader cards, which appear to be the inspiration for our modern Amiibo cards.
Wild World for the Nintendo DS came next, with 150 total villagers, the fewest in the series to date. Although it added 18 additional villagers and the monkey species, 188 villagers were cut from the first generation.
Wow, talk about cutting the Pokédex in half. Those are some serious exclusions. In addition, the special character Farley did not make it to Wild World. Farley is a character that lived in the fountain and would give the player a golden axe upon reaching Perfect Town status. He also has one of the most unique voices in the entire franchise. City Folk for Wii carried over all 150 villagers from Wild World and returned 42 cut villagers from the first generation games. In addition to this, City Folk added 18 brand new villagers, bringing the total to 210. However, some major special characters had been cut.
Well, kind of. I wouldn't use the word major. Cornimer, an acorn mask-wearing character resembling Tortimer, appears only in the Acorn Festival in Wild World. He trades players mushroom furniture items for acorns. Although many obvious hints imply that Cornimer is just Tortimer, he never makes a similar appearance after Wild World. Tortimer himself returns, so he can't really be counted as a cut character.
Well, what about the other critical character in Wild World?
I'm not sure if I'd use the word critical. There was an unofficially named character called Phone Clerk who interacts with the player only through text, who was also cut. The role of this character is to help the player with options such as changing the time, so again, it's not a character in the traditional sense.
Okay, you're right. But I still can't help but feel bad that they didn't return, especially Cornimer. New Leaf came next, and it was definitely the odd one out by adding a massive 100 new villagers as well as the hamster and deer species. Additionally, 24 returned from the first generation, resulting in a total of 333 villagers. Only 1 villager was cut from City Folk to New Leaf, Champ the monkey.
What? Why did they cut only him?
The official reason? He was censored out due to his highly offensive t-shirt design. Just kidding. The real reason is that Nintendo just really hates Champ. Still kidding. There was never a confirmed reason given, but there's some speculation that he was cut for being too similar to Porter, the train conductor, due to his nearly identical appearance and train catchphrase. Though Champ was the only villager cut, there were a number of special characters that didn't make it to New Leaf as well.
Yeah, and some of them had slightly more important roles than your previous examples. Caitlin, Katie's mother, was removed since Katie is now old enough to travel on her own. Aww, I love wholesome character development. Serena was a character similar to Farley from the first generation. Her role was to give the player the silver and gold axes. In New Leaf, the silver axe could be bought on Tortimer Island with island medals, and the gold axe was received from Leaf after the player purchased 50 saplings. Therefore, her job was no longer required.
Frillard, Dr. Shrunk's mentor, was also cut from New Leaf, though Shrunk does reference him. He had only a minor role, replacing Dr. Shrunk on rare occasions and teaching the player 6 unique emotions they couldn't otherwise learn. Similar to the phone clerk from Wild World, there were 2 small text-only characters that did not make it to New Leaf. The MC who would host Dr. Shrunk's or Frillard's comedy show, and the clerk who sells tickets to the show.
Did you know, because of their similar roles and identical voices, it's theorized that the MC and clerk are the same character?
That does make sense now that you mention it. So in total, 209 villagers from City Folk migrated to New Leaf. But wait, there's more! Take it away, Gianni.
With the Welcome Amiibo update in 2016, 66 villagers were added, 16 new crossover villagers, and 50 returning from the first generation. That brings the total to 399. Among the 16 new villagers, 6 were crossovers from Sanrio, 4 from Zelda, 3 from Splatoon, 1 from Monster Hunter, and 2, Philly and Holden, were distributed as Japan-exclusive visitors and not actually available to live in your town, meaning they weren't villagers in the traditional sense.
Now take a look at this post by the official Animal Crossing Twitter page. 383 villagers are confirmed to be invited to New Horizons.
But wait, there were 399 available in New Leaf, so who got the axe this time?
Unfortunately, the math implies that the 16 crossover characters won't be returning.
But couldn't they add them in later?
Yes, well there's no confirmation of them being included yet. With the power of future DLC or Nintendo simply wanting to keep some details secret before launch, those crossover characters may very well return. However, due to the Sanrio Amiibo cards being confirmed to have limited functionality in New Horizons, it's unlikely they will return as proper villager characters again. As for the other crossover characters, there's no evidence either way.
What do you mean by limited functionality?
Well, in New Leaf, after scanning the Amiibo card, you could have the Sanrio villagers live in your town. However, it's been confirmed that won't be possible in New Horizons, at least on launch. Scanning the Amiibo card will give you a decorative poster of that character instead. I would very much like to see the return in a future update, because it would heavily imply we would see the return of the Sanrio Amiibo cards for sale, which currently go for around $150 for the full Japanese set, and $200 for the English. That's an average of $33 per card. You'd think that paper was made of pure gold for that price, but no, it's just really expensive cardboard. No, not that cardboard.
All series of the Amiibo cards have been discontinued for some time now. Series 1 to 4 had 100 cards per set, which included both special characters as well as the 333 villagers before the Welcome Amiibo expansion. Series 5, the Welcome Amiibo set, included 50 cards of returning villagers from the first generation.
While Series 1 to 4 can still be found online for reasonable prices, Series 5 was released in extremely limited quantities. Many of the individual cards go for around $20 each or more, and the unopened packs for upwards of $75 or more. Luckily, there's good news. With the confirmation of Amiibo compatibility returning to New Horizons, some shops such as the Japanese My Nintendo store have started selling Amiibo cards again, meaning we should see a restock for the cards internationally. It makes too much sense, as Nintendo would lose out on tons of revenue by not releasing the cards with all the hype surrounding New Horizons, especially considering many players will be coming into the series for the first time and won't have the ability to buy Amiibo cards outside of third-party vendors. Then again, let's be honest, Nintendo doesn't always follow predictable marketing strategies. Get lost, Labo!
We've already seen the restocking of the Super Smash Amiibo figures after Ultimate was released, so it's not a huge stretch that they would restock cards for New Horizons. While the Japanese shop has started selling the rare Series 5 set, it's unfortunate that there's no indication they'll be selling the Sanrio set. Why do you think this is?
This is likely due to complications with licensing. Whether or not Nintendo will renew their agreement with Sanrio is still unknown, and there's currently no evidence to suggest they will. Still, that leaves us with a very likely restock of Series 1 to 4, and most importantly, the elusive Series 5. I also personally predict the release of a Series 6 card set, which would include the new special and villager characters released in New Horizons.
That makes sense. Some that come to mind for Series 6 could be the Dodos Orville and Wilbur, CJ, Flick, Daisy May, and past characters who did not receive any Amiibo cards, such as Wisp, Lloyd, and Harvey. Of course, brand new villagers such as Renee found on the Japanese New Horizons site, and those that may be brought back from the first generation could be included in the set as well.
That's exactly right. I'm predicting that New Horizons will only introduce a small amount of brand new villagers, while bringing back a chunk of those cut after the first generation, only because 383 is already quite a lot of characters to develop. If I've done my math correctly, there are currently 72 villagers cut from the first generation who have not yet returned in a future title, including Champ, who didn't make it to New Leaf, and the 16 crossover characters. That's 89 total cut villagers, which is definitely a feasible amount to bring back while still having room for brand new characters as well. While I'm in no hurry for the text-only characters to return, it would be nice to see those with actual models come back, including Farley, Caitlyn, Serena, and Frillard.
Aren't you discriminating against text-only characters?
Oops. Well, I wouldn't mind seeing their return if they serve an appropriate purpose. I'm sure there's someone out there who is really anticipating their return. But I'd like to see more fleshed out characters prioritized first. Disembodied voices will have to come second in my book. Sorry. Still, I'd like to see the devs pull a Smash Ultimate "everyone is here" moment. Focusing more on bringing back older characters and less on creating new ones.
I'm not so sure. I love seeing the designs and species of brand new characters. I kind of feel enough old characters have made a return.
That's a good point. I know a lot of people love getting new characters, and I certainly do too, but I still actually prefer the method of prioritizing older characters over newer ones, for the simple reason that every character is someone's favorite. Not to mention first generation characters were cut so long ago that they would essentially feel like new characters if they were brought back today. Some designs are similar to animals we already have, like Cupcake and Cherry, but we're missing out on some awesome designs like Woolio and Pigleg. I'd rather see individual character development over time than characters being replaced or forgotten between games. I think that might be an unpopular opinion. There's always so much hype surrounding new character reveals, but what can I say? I just don't want any character I've grown attached to disappear from the series in the future.
That's true, but we can't have new species without introducing new characters.
That's a good point as well. I guess there's no right or wrong answer, and the devs won't be able to please everyone. We'll just have to trust they do what they think is best for the franchise. I'm sure most people don't pay much attention to Knox, and they're objectively wrong for doing so. But being my personal favorite, I would be devastated if I found out he was cut from the next installment. While fans of popular characters like Stitches, Flurry, and Bob can rest easy, I was up nights wondering if my boy Knox was gonna make a return.
For the time being, it seems characters with an Amiibo card will be safe for future games. Don't worry, Knox should be okay for a while.
Well, there is some discussion going on about Harriot being replaced by the Mirror. We've seen characters be removed or replaced in the past, so it's not impossible that Harriot, and by extension Shampoodle, have been completely removed.
True. However, I highly doubt that is the case here. The characters removed in the past were very minor. They were essentially replaced because they had a similar job to another character. Perhaps they thought from a development standpoint that it was unnecessary to have both Shrunk and Frillard, who serve essentially the same purpose, and wanted to put their time towards developing other aspects of the game. As for Farley being replaced by Serena, perhaps they felt he didn't fit the game design-wise and wanted to replace him with a more animal-like character.
True, and maybe Caitlin's exclusion was just to show the overarching character development of the franchise, as we've seen through the Able sisters' changing relationship. Still, I can't help but hope the pattern of keeping older characters continues as the franchise progresses, instead of replacing or removing them entirely. And for Knox's sake, someone get Champ out of the ether! Until next time, we'll leave you with this. He who stubs his toe is he who remembers his feet are there. See you!